Please note that the shelf can accommodate 3 craft bags of 100 by 200. However, according to sanitary standards, you can fill no more than 70% of the shelf volume. That is, you need to have 30% free for air to pass through these shelves. Therefore, please leave only 2 craft bags on each shelf. The same goes for small craft bags. Craft bags should not overlap each other, i.e., they should not be stacked like this. There should be a distance between them, and they should also occupy no more than 70% of the available space. That is, there must be space between them for the hot air sterilizer to work correctly. Please note that craft bags can be transparent or made of paper. The most important thing is that when you choose a craft bag, it must be filled with air, not steam, but air. Why? Because there are craft bags that can be used both in a hot air sterilizer and in an autoclave, and in a hot air sterilizer, the processing is done with hot air, in an autoclave, with hot steam. And these are different types of craft bags. There are those craft bags that can be used both ways, and there are craft bags that are designed exclusively for use in an autoclave. And if you put such a craft bag in a hot air sterilizer, such a craft bag will melt and ruin both the hot air sterilizer and your instrument. Be careful. Be sure to pay attention that you can only put in craft bags that have a note that it is air, and the indicators will be for air. Please note that the operation of the hot air sterilizer must be checked with indicators not of the first class, but of the 4th class. These are the indicators that are installed around the perimeter and in the middle of each shelf in the hot air sterilizer. And there are already craft bags that have a 4th class indicator. But according to sanitary standards, you are required to paste indicators of this type in the sterilization log. Therefore, if you keep a sterilization log, you will still need to buy indicators of this type separately to paste them into the log, because you will not be able to bring them from the craft package to the sterilization log. If you do not know how to understand the 4th or 1st class indicator on your craft bag, pay attention to the temperature. Class 4 indicators will always work exclusively for one temperature. This is usually the standard 180 degrees for 60 minutes. And such craft bags will have this written near the indicator. Because there are indicators, for example, like this one. It's the same company, but the indicators here are 1st class. That is, they are less sensitive and they will not react as well as the 4th class indicators. Now I'm going to show you how to check the hot air sterilizer for malfunctions. To do this, use 4th class indicators. Glue them around the perimeter of each shelf. They should be located around the perimeter, fixed, because there is always a sticky base here that you have to remove on one side. And in the middle. We put our shelf in. After we have the hot air sterilizer fully loaded, close it, plug it in, and press the power button behind, which I show you. As you can see, the fan starts working. You may not hear it because it is very quiet. Here you'll see the temperature while it's picking it up. And here is the time. It will stand there until the required temperature is reached. As soon as the required temperature is reached, the countdown will begin. We start choosing the required mode. We have 4 of them. The first mode of 80 degrees is drying. It is not sterilization. In case you need to dry the instrument quickly and don't have time to let it dry on its own in 8 hours, you can use this mode. But please note that after this mode, you will need to switch to the sterilization mode that you choose yourself. They are all automatically selected with just this one button. You press it and you can switch between the modes. 160 degrees for 150 minutes is a very cool mode for preserving your instrument, but it's long. 180 degrees for 60 minutes is the most optimal sterilization mode, as it takes relatively little time, but it does not heat up the instrument too much. And 200 degrees for 30 minutes is the fastest sterilization mode. All of them are allowed, but 200 degrees is the most damaging temperature, which is undesirable for our instruments. You can use it if you have a professional instrument. If you have a non-professional instrument, it may become sporty or rusty at this temperature. Pay attention to this. Therefore, we recommend using a medium or even 160 degrees for 150 minutes, or if you use Class 4 indicators, where there is a 180 degree limit, then 180 degrees for 60 minutes. And in order to turn on this mode, you need to click on this button and hold it down. Hold it down. Hold it for 3 seconds. That's the sound you just heard. This means that the mode is selected. You can see it's lit up red. This means that the temperature is starting to rise. And you can already see it, 27 degrees. The temperature is rising, but the clock is still standing still, and it will not turn on, as I said, only when it reaches 180 degrees. It takes 20 minutes for the temperature to reach 180 degrees. After that, the countdown begins. After you have heard this signal, which symbolizes that the hot air sterilizer has finished its work, another indicator will light up, this time yellow, which will mean that the heating element is off and the temperature is starting to drop. The time, as you can see, is already at 0. This shows the temperature that is now in the chamber and it starts to cool down. Only the fan in it is working. It's hot, so you don't need to hug it, touch it, or press it in any way. You need to wait until it cools down to at least 40 degrees. If you need your tool to cool down faster and you need to use it already, you can speed up the cooling of the tool itself. To do this, just open the valve on top. But since it is hot, take some cloth to protect your hands and you can lift this metal valve. This way, the hot air comes out faster, the tool cools down faster, but it doesn't happen abruptly, so your tool doesn't get damaged, but the camera cools down faster. You can basically unplug it at this point, but I recommend leaving it on, because the fan will be running, which will drive this hot air. And since you have the valve open, the exit of this hot air when the fan is running will be much faster than if you just turn the camera off. But if you're in a hurry to get home, you can turn off the hot air sterilizer with the button and unplug it, but don't open the door or the chamber because the sudden temperature drop will ruin your instrument. When the Horno de Calor Seco is fully loaded, it takes 50 minutes on average to cool down with the valve open. If you add a smaller tool, of course, it will be much faster. If you do not open the valve, it takes 1.5 times longer.